Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome everyone to the Poised for Exit podcast show. Our guest today is the managing director of a private equity firm in the Midwest whose seller-centric approach has helped carry on the legacies of many companies in its portfolio. We're going to hear from him right after these messages.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, Certified Exit Planning Advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
Thinking about selling your business in the next few years? Don't wait to start planning. I've seen too many business owners wait too long and regret it. Freedom Financial Partners are financial advisors who specialize in exit planning for business owners, helping you reduce tax surprises, protect what you've built, and quantify how much you need from the sale. Their proven process helps you think beyond your business so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The longer you wait, the fewer options you may have. Download your free financial readiness assessment today at ffpforme.com/exit. That's ffpforme.com/exit.
This is Andy Kosamba, president of Calhoun Companies. We understand that selling your business is a big deal. Since 1908, Calhoun Companies has been confidently connecting buyers and sellers. From small family shops to large corporations, our expert brokers walk with you and guide you every step of the way, whether you're looking to retire or simply for a fresh start. If you're curious what your business could sell for, or if you're ready to start the process, head to calhouncompanies.com for a free and confidential consultation. Calhoun Companies, the confident choice for buyers and sellers.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We're here today with Ben Axelrod, who's the managing director of Borgman Capital. Ben, welcome to Poised for Exit.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, so glad that you could be on the show. Trying to remember when we met. Was it MBBI's event where you were a panelist with private equity folks?
I believe so. I think that was maybe not the first place we met, but probably the most recent place, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know it's been a couple more times too,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, that's a good thing though, right? Because that means that we've been around and we know what we're talking about.
I think so.
Yeah, there you go. So lots to talk about today, as a matter of fact. Had a good conversation with you prior to the show, so hopefully I can fit in everything that I want to talk with you about. But before we do that, I really do like to start by asking my guests to kind of give us an idea, like, how did you get here, right? What was your career path and what was it that drew you to being in the private equity space?
Yeah, no, absolutely happy to share that. So I started my career in M&A. I have been around M&A pretty much my entire career. My first exposure was actually when I was still in school. I had an opportunity to stop out of school when I was in Frankfurt, Germany, and worked at an investment bank there for a term, for a semester, while not in school. And that exposed me. We were helping family-owned businesses there. Size-wise, it's a little bit different in Europe, but they tended to be a bit smaller. So what we would define as lower middle market. Here, I think in Germany at the time, they were defined as more middle market businesses. And then when I finished my undergrad, I started my career in M&A here, advising technology companies in the pre and post.com era, and then moved to working with more middle market funds, private equity funds, as well as some larger businesses. And after a number of years of doing that, I shifted to advising away from institutional private equity in the middle market, more towards working with closely held founder and family owned businesses, and
Mm.
really where the decisions around the transaction and decision making is far more personal and stakes extend, beyond valuation. And that gradual shift made me realize that I wanted to be on the ownership side, where really not just advising on the transactions, but where you get the chance to stay with management and really put into action all the opportunities that you maybe discuss and cover during the process that you're talking about, to the sellers, to the business owners, and
Hmm.
really live with the consequences of the decisions you make together. So that ultimately brought me to Borgman Capital. I'd worked with Sequoia, the founder of Borgman Capital, on a transaction about 4 years before then joining actually Borgman Capital in the Twin Cities, and that was about 3 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's kind of how it is, though, right? Because you get to test the waters with each other first and then go, hey, I think this would be a great place for me to hang my hat.
yeah, we yeah, absolutely. We stayed in touch after that successful investment, and I actually made as investments as a limited partner of Borgman Capital after that
Mhm.
first one. So it was an organization I was familiar with. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, as we were kind of talking about before the show started, and as you have experienced and I've experienced over the years with sellers, that there are many misunderstandings and misconceptions about private equity and the, kind of preconceived notions that many people have, not just the owners, but some of their advisors too, right? So maybe we could just talk about that. Like, what are some of the things that come up in the conversations that you've had that you kind of help
Sure.
explain? Yeah.
Yeah, we try to, and look, it's whether they're misunderstandings or generalizations to your point, it's not surprising, I suppose, given just how many private equity funds, independent sponsors, family offices, all the different types of financial buyers are out there. But there are some that come up pretty consistently, and I think one of them is this fear of losing control, this belief that there's going to be an overnight change, where the culture is going to get ripped out and everything is going to be governed by spreadsheets. And I'm being a little facetious, but probably not too much, right? I
Oh,
think that
yeah.
is a
I,
real fear.
I agree.
And so I think that's one. And I think in reality, not just for what we try to do, but most private equity groups out there, I think that the pace of change and oftentimes can be and becomes actually slower, not faster, than certainly than the sellers and the business owners believe it's
Mhm.
going to be. And I think the link to that, the second misconception, perhaps to note, I mean, it's that private equity firms are interchangeable. And again, back to my comment about how many of them there are out there, it's maybe not surprising, but the fit matters, and it's something that business owners really should explore. And
Yeah.
if they're working with an advisor, I mean, that allows them the opportunity to do that much more, because there's some that focus on financial engineering, some that focus on roll up strategies or buy and build strategies, and some do really well through financial engineering, right? And the point being that it's there are a lot of different, it's not one size fits all. Our approach, I think, is pretty, we try to be pretty direct about it. We feel that we can provide flexible capital and really long-term alignment. That's how we
Mhm.
go about it, which works for many business owners. We think the ones we've partnered with have found that approach to be successful. But I think there's just the ability to cut through the misconceptions, I think, would set up a lot of business owners on the right path and really selecting the right partner.
And that really is what it's all about, right? Is selecting the right partner because that's what you are to them and they are to you. So, I mean, the road goes both ways, right? But so tell me about how you were influenced around the approach that you just outlined. Something happened, like you had some conversations and you're just like, hmm, I think I need to, right, adjust.
Yeah, it's yes, certainly that's happened. I think that I can't really think of one. I'm not sure it would be fair to think of one moment of epiphany or anything like that. So I think it's been shaped over, hundreds of conversations with business owners or with founders, and it really the themes that play out in those conversations. I'm really seeing a lot of transactions, more from the advisory side in my career, right? Is that the identity, motivation for
Yeah.
the exit, the what life looks like after a transaction, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean that the business owner is no longer involved, right? Those things really are the strong undercurrents that matter a lot,
Big
right?
time.
And there was one,
Yeah.
I think I know people like stories. I like stories. I mean, I can remember I was working really with two brothers. They were second generation, and they had made this. They made a pact when long before we started working with them that when one of them decided to sell or to exit the business, they would both do it. Right? They wouldn't end up in a situation when one is selling to another, or one is selling, one staying involved. And what I saw after working with them for a number of months, one of the brothers kept repeating this narrative, right, out loud, and to people that would listen, that he was the one that he wanted to hold on for longer, but because they had made this pact, it was almost like as if he was trying to convince himself, right? And so
Ah,
you fast forward, and the irony was they did sell the business, and actually, the brother that wanted to step away, he ended up staying involved and with the business, with a new partner for quite a bit longer than the one, and I
really?
mean several years. Whereas the one that thought he would continue to be involved, he couldn't make it work. He couldn't play with somebody else in his sandbox, and that was,
Mm,
so to me, that the realization or reaffirmation that these transactions or these transitions, they're layered, they're emotional, they're unpredictable, right, in terms of just how somebody is going to feel. Those are all things that play out in just about every situation, right? I think the deals, the transactions, they're about people, they're about identity, trust, and empathy, not just terms. And so
yeah.
that's something I think we and my partners, that we try to keep that in mind in every situation, because most of the time it's money matters. No, anybody that comes on and says that, hey, we're trying to find transactional money matters in every sale, especially when you're talking about lower middle market, right?
Right.
But these other things can be just as important in most situations.
Well, and these other things, if they're not addressed, as I well know as an exit planner, they can derail a deal.
Yeah,
And if they don't,
absolutely.
yeah, if there's a lot of fear there and there really isn't any plan for whatever the next is going to be, yeah, that losing control and fear of losing identity and things like that are very real, and nothing wrong with that, but they definitely need to be addressed. So I'm really glad to know that you know that. And I think our listeners would be very happy to know that too. Owners are people, we're people, and the people side of the business is really where all the value is, right? So it's not in the tangibles, it's in the intangibles.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And for our approach, which again, it's hard in with how many financial buyers are out there today. It's
Yeah.
hard to suggest that anyone is unique, right? But people do have their styles and approaches, and
Hmm.
to your point, I think ours is very much to be mindful of. We're looking for partners, right? I mean, we're not coming in and starting to
Right.
run the business, right? We don't have that ability, so we have to feel that we're partnering with people that see eye to eye with us, and it goes both ways, like you said.
Of course. Yeah, many times I've had clients over the years who the founders or the key people were whoever they were, right? Whether they're related or not, didn't necessarily have the capital that they needed to scale, but they had the plan to scale. They just needed someone to come in and infuse some capital so that they could take it to the next level. And so, is a company like that of interest to Borgman Capital?
Absolutely. It's we tend to focus on, as I said earlier, on lower middle market businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have hard geographic focus. We prefer the Midwest or the upper Midwest, even, just because I think that our approach, our style, and frankly the types of businesses in the industries that for some folks, they're probably boring, niche manufacturing, distributions, and business to business services, right? Plenty of those businesses they've been around for a long time, they had stability, but they see
Mm-hmm.
opportunities that the business owner just might not be at a point of his or her life where they're willing to take on the risk
Right.
of what the risk that opportunity might entail, as much of an opportunity as it might be, right? So those situations are very interesting to us, because again, we're looking to back strong management teams and hopefully founders that are willing to stick around, or family that is willing to stick around, because they're going to know that business better than we ever will, right? We certainly don't try to come in and be the smartest people in the room. We need to rely on their experience and their skill set, but we're there to be a resource, right? And hopefully to bring them not just the capital, but also all sorts of other resources that can make that execution, or the execution of that on that opportunity, that much more possible.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you've got different areas of expertise within your firm too, so that you can carry out, that assistance and help, whatever it is that they need to scale aside from just the capital. So as long as we're talking about that, let's just talk about your ideal client. Share with us, the companies that you have in your portfolio that have been a great fit for you. Because I think, and maybe sharing a story or two of how, that all shook out and how things are going with them.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. First of all, as an independent sponsor, right? And I don't know, some in your audience may not know what that means. It means that we raise capital deal by deal as opposed to a committed fund. So we're not locked into a fund cycle and the rigidity of what a typical fund cycle might be,
Mm-hmm.
5 years or so to find businesses, 5 years then to work with them and ultimately exit. But the funds have finite life. We have the flexibility of not being locked into it. And so that does allow us to customize, I would say, the pace, the governance, and really the structure to each transaction. The as you asked for an example or situation, one that comes to mind is it's an investment partnership we've been in for a couple of years. I think it's probably a good example. It's a chemical distribution business that we
Mm-hmm.
partnered with, and we partnered with a business owner there that continues to run the business. He has been in the business for 30 plus years. He has been an owner of the business for 20, and he didn't want to walk away outright. He didn't want to walk away yet, but didn't want the pressure of sole ownership. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we've partnered, he continues to run the business, as I said. And I think one of the things that he tells us often, unprompted, and we've heard this from some of the other folks in the small office that they run, is that it still very much feels like the same company in his company. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't helped the business. We've added sales talent. We've smoothly, thankfully, transitioned from went through a retirement of the chief or the lead finance person at the company. So we now have a new controller there. And we've made some quiet process improvements that everybody's been on board with. But we paced it in such a way that we know there are some things that we will probably end up doing with the business. Again, nothing that people aren't aware of, but we'll do them after the current president of the business transitions away into retirement, which is what he wants to do. He's just some things that he said. I
Mm-hmm.
think these things make sense, but let's just do them after I am no longer there, because he's been doing things the same way for a really long time, and then
Sure.
towards the end of his career with the company, he just the disruption, even though we're going to make it as the least disruptive possible, right?
Right.
That and we've worked with them, and this is I think what we're going to do. So I think the point there is that really we strive to go for evolution
Uh-huh.
much more than an overhaul, right? In the way we approach. And I think that's worked well for the businesses that we've partnered with.
Well, and it probably also helps you to retain the key people, right? Because if we make too many changes, people get scared and leave. And you
That's
don't want,
right. And
right? You don't want
you're
that.
spot on. You're spot
Right.
on. And that's one of the biggest risks I think we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in our approach and our style, is we know that, as I said earlier, the people that have been running the business have run the business well, because we're not investing in turnaround situations or really broken situations, right? We're
Sure.
investing in businesses that they're not necessarily the hottest new thing going to the moon, right? We like steadiness and stability, right?
Right.
So the people that are there are the ones that have made that happen over
Yeah.
whatever period of time. So you're
Right.
absolutely right. Critically important to us to be able to retain the talent that really are the lifeblood of that organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we talked about before, the people really are the value, right? The intangible value, along with the brand
Hmm.
and all of those things. So let's talk about family-owned companies versus non-family owned companies. And maybe how they fit into your criteria for buying and how that actually might be different if you brought them into the fold. I mean, let's face it, the majority of private companies are family businesses, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So speak to that, maybe just the difference between the two and how you might approach them differently, if at all. Because I think that that is maybe something that our listeners might be interested in hearing about.
So
They're still, trying to decide what their transition plan looks like. Maybe they've got kids in the business that want to stay in the business, but they don't necessarily have what it takes to buy it from the founders or the parents or whatever generation is the ownership. This
sure.
happens a lot. Okay. So what could be a good situation for them bringing in someone like you where they can keep the legacy going, but not have to worry about, the big risk versus whatever that criteria might look like for one that's a non-family. So it's kind of a twofold question.
Sure. So yeah, I think that most of our experience has been, I guess we'd consider them to be family-owned businesses or founder-owned businesses, and specifically to family-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They, as you said, there's often that next generation of family, right, that is involved in multiple. It gets interesting, doesn't it? Where you might have, especially if the business is owned by something other than the first generation of founders, because then you have all sorts of different familial relationships. And look, there's some situations like that and you've seen them in your work, Julie, right, where the businesses can be quite troubled, quite broken because of the dysfunction of the family. So then in those situations, family-owned situation, that is something that we take a more time to assess and understand where are the family owners that are involved in the business. Are they actually are they doing work? Do they aspire to be involved in the business? Because we've seen many, and one we bought recently at the time when we were buying the business last year, there were actually 5 members of the family
Mm.
of the fourth generation of family, one from the third generation and 5 from the fourth generation that were
Oh my
involved.
goodness.
And they were involved, but it became apparent that it really actually wasn't their design. It wasn't clear from the beginning, but after I think it took a lot of soul searching for them as well.
Sure.
And we collectively, I think there was the realization that only one of those family members was looking to stay involved and be involved. And so long as we understand the rest of the management structure, because then we have to look and say, okay, the non-family members, what roles are they in? Are they empowered to do the work? Can we partner with them and can we support them? And if this transition happens sooner, right, or at the time of the transaction,
Mm-hmm.
can we make it all work? So I think it comes down to really trying to understand the dynamics without being either biased, but also not. I think that sometimes you do end up in families ownership situations where the members of the family may be there because they just are the next generation of family, as opposed to whether they are qualified to be there or want to be there, right, or both. And so assessing that, I think that in those family situations, that's an additional part of diligence, right? When it's a founder and there's not the family dynamic involved, I think it's much more about what is the clarity of vision of this individual. Where does he or she know where they want the business to go? And more importantly also, or just as importantly, do they understand why a transaction is the right way to get the business there, right? Because
Yes.
we don't want to get down the path and then have them realize that they really didn't consider this as, or haven't explored and think this is the right option. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it makes total
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. But well, the work that I do is to help them get there so that when they actually meet people like you, they know what they want and what they don't want.
Right.
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 And that's everything, right? Because we don't want them to backpedal and go, oh no, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't serve anybody. So lastly, I've got one more question for you, and that would
Hmm.
be this. If I am going to interview a company like you, because I'm thinking about retaining you and working with you and partnering with you, and you're thinking about me, but I'm going to meet with some other companies too. What are some questions that I should ask of a private equity firm if I'm considering going down that path?
Yeah, that's a great question, I think, as a business owner. Um, and how you ask the question or how you get at it might not be a direct set of questions, but really what I think there's some things that you should be trying to find out, right? I think the first one might seem not trying to be cheeky, but really it's, do I like them, right? And
Yeah.
especially in those situations where I think we're talking about most situations, certainly the ones that we're going to be involved with, where it isn't just about the last dollar, right? If you do have, if you do prioritize, or there is some prioritization in addition to the purchase price and the money aspect of it, what are some of the other things that matter, right? And so when there are these other factors, such as preservation of a location or the employee base or management team, so can I work with them, right? Do I like them in such a way that I think I will enjoy working with them and interacting with them? Another one would be, do I feel that they can prioritize me and my business, right? Because a lot of, we own a number of businesses, but we also have, I think, a team that is not common for an independent sponsor in terms of size of the team. So
Sure.
we feel that we have the bandwidth and the ability to be that resource, because that is what we're striving to be, is the
Of
resource
course.
to the management teams and to the owners that are staying on.
Yeah, I noticed that on your website. That's quite a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot of depth, and I think that goes to the next one is related to that is, where will they find depth, right? In those situations where additional resources, or if the business is going through some challenge or there's some issue, where will they find depth to help the business, right? So I think those are, and there are many others, but those come to mind as I
Mhm.
think questions that, or things that a business owner should be looking to understand about a private equity partner that they're going to take on, if they are looking forward to being involved, or even if they're looking to step in away, but at the same time have concerns about legacy and the future of the employees in the business and the operation.
Which is really a big concern for a lot of founders out there. So I'm glad that you guys are so sensitive to that and address that. And it's been a great interview. I really appreciate having you on the show, Ben. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks again to all of our listeners and our sponsors across the globe. We really appreciate you joining us and sharing this episode. Please join us again next time.